Hey guys, this is Mark Grasse with the MegaMad podcast. So today I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why you should start a podcast. Now, I wasn't originally a podcaster or somebody who listened to podcasts or liked them or promoted them in any way because I didn't understand the point. I just saw a lot of people doing it. I actually worked for a company called On It, which was owned by Joe Rogan. They actually bought my original magazine, and they were big on podcasting. So when I actually worked as the CFO, the Chief Fitness Officer over there, I started listening to the podcast, and even then I was like, man, it's just people talking, and it just bothered me. I think I've chilled out a little bit since then, so I'm more open to things. And so I had a bunch of clients that were asking me about podcasts, and so I don't like selling anything or doing anything that I don't do myself. So I started a podcast, and I found out that they are awesome. So I could create this list, 5 reasons why you should start a podcast, and hopefully it'll encourage you to do podcasting because it's, all these good things. I'm only going to list 5. There's actually way more than this, but I'll get to those later. All right, so number 1, I think it's really good practice for public speaking. So that's number 1. It's good practice for public speaking and sales. So if you're not good at sales or you're terrified of public speaking, doing a podcast actually makes you really think about what you say and create outlines to speak about. And it's much easier than video. I'll get to the ease of it with my next point. But it's just really good practice. So when you have to outline something and you know it's going to be recorded and you know it might be listened to by potential customers or friends or family, then you take it a little bit more seriously and you'll start getting much better at the process of speaking. So for me, I'm an introvert, and it took me years to get out of anxiety and feeling uncomfortable with public speaking, even though it's something I've always done. But doing the podcast actually has helped me, improve my ability to speak. So I still have the fillers like which you'll hear sometimes. I'm tired, so that's part of the reason for that. But in all, if you're practicing, if you're doing a podcast on a regular basis, say once a week, you will improve your speaking and your sales. All right, so next one, number 2, is once your podcast is up, creating content is super easy. So originally when you're setting up the projects and you're, figuring out which channels to post to and how to record and do all these different things, it will seem like a lot of work. But after you're used to it, you could actually produce an episode in, 30 minutes. I'll probably record a tutorial where I produce an episode in 30 minutes just because it's definitely doable. And once you have your system down, then it'll be doable for you too. So compared to other types of content like articles, which I've always encouraged my clients to produce, but have been successful only about 5% of the time, it's way easier than that. So, people don't expect podcasts to be perfect, but they expect your writing to be perfect. I don't know if you've ever encountered a grammar Nazi online, but it's a pain in the butt, and, it's hard. The English language in general is just difficult. There's a lot of nuances that are hard to understand, even if you grew up doing it. So I've written for a while, so I'm used to it. And I'm a magazine editor, so that helps. But for podcasts, you don't have to be perfect. You just bust out whatever you're talking about. Try to be convincing. Try to be interesting, but you don't have to be perfect, and nobody's going to really criticize you about that. And if they do, then, F them. Who cares? Anyways, so it's super easy compared to articles, and then graphics. You need to, unless you're used to graphic design and you have an eye, even if you're using Canva or whatever, it's a lot of work, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And video, people are terrified of video. I try to get people to do video all the time because I think it's a really good way to promote your personality with your brand. But again, you have to, you want to look good. You want your background to be good. You want the video itself to be edited well. You may want to include graphics on it, and you want everything to look professional. It's a ton of work. And, even size-wise, in terms of the file size of a video versus a sound file is bigger, so transfer will take longer, uploading will take longer, all these things. It's just a lot of work, and a lot of people don't want to do it. With a podcast, I'm going to, edit this I use Premiere Pro just because I'm so used to it. But, it takes me not very long at all. Drop the file in, add my intro outro, put some music in there, and I'm done. You could actually do it from your phone if you want to. So, and it'll sound professional enough. You could always improve things, but I always tell people it's as much about volume as it is about quality. Anyways, so it's super easy, in terms of content creation. Number 3, adds a lot of personality to your brand. So if you're just trying to produce stuff, articles especially, people don't realize when you read articles online, or when most people read articles online, they skim. They don't like, I'm going to read this top to bottom. They will skim first, and they'll either, one, read the parts that they find interesting or that answer the question that they were looking for in the first place, or 2, not read any of it. They might just read the intro, read your bullet points, say, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Those are the 5 reasons, or those are the 5 books I wanted to read, and then they'll move on. So that's how people read articles. So there's no chance to put in personality. Even if you're a really good writer, people just aren't going to read. Same thing with graphics. Like, say you do super professional graphics, like that could actually turn people off because they'll think, oh, this is a pro graphic. This is probably some rich jerk company. I don't want to give them business, and I don't want to be advertised to, so I'm not even going to look at this. So you can't add personality there. And then again, video, you can add lots of personality, but it's a lot more work. So podcast allows you to add that personality without having to do a ton of work. And you could tell jokes, you could be interesting, you could be smart, and you don't actually have to be any of those things because you could just prep your work. And then you cheated, and who cares? You think comedians are funny off the bat? Some of them are, but most of them, they worked for years at preparing their pitch, essentially online, their timing, everything about it, gauging reaction, and then they come up and, oh, he's so hilarious. He must always be hilarious, or he was always hilarious from birth. That doesn't happen. So I don't know where I was going with that, the comedian part. But anyways, it shows your personality. And again, you could cheat and present a personality that might not be 100% true, but you'll have to work on it. So it shows your brand. Maybe it's representing your brand or your image of yourself in the brand, whatever. But that's what the podcast does. It presents that personality you want to portray. All right, number 4. Your podcast content leads to lots of other content. So a lot of people think like, oh, I have one podcast, that's one piece of content. But you could do quotes, quote images. You could do, you could turn it into a video. So on my YouTube channel, I post, it just has a background graphic with the podcast episode name. You'll see that. Actually, you might be looking at it now. And then you could do, you turn it into an article. You could actually transcribe your piece or send it to somebody to transcribe the episode into an article, an SEO optimized article. So for this one, 5 reasons why you should start a podcast. My keyword term would probably be either why you should start a podcast or start a podcast. And then I take all this content, I, of course, edit and make it sound like it's written. And then I have an article, a full article. It could be 500 words or 1,000 words. But, you have another piece of SEO content. And again, you could share this as many times as you want in the future. Every time you share it on social media, you could change, the context of whatever the episode is about. And it's still relevant. Don't make it up, but you could present it a different way each time you do it. Say you just go on Facebook and you just schedule out every 3 months, you're going to share the same episode, but you do it slightly differently every time. And it sounds original. You don't have to say brand new content, or don't say that if it's not brand new content. But, a lot of people you might have, say you get 100 new followers a month, they haven't seen it. And over 3 months, that's 300 people who haven't seen this article or this podcast. So there you go. You just, use the content again. And I'll tell you what, I was talking to a group today, and I was saying that the best feeling is when you get a lead or you get a sale or something, and it's off of a piece of content that you did 6 months ago or a year ago or 5 years ago. And somebody found it, never saw it before, and contacted you. And, they don't know when you posted it, or they might know, but most people don't even look. They just found your stuff and it was interesting. So that's why they contacted you. So, again, the content leads to a lot of other content that you could create. And I'll probably do an article about that. Anyways, number 5, it's a cheap way to get exposure and advertising. I'm just blown away by the exposure that this has generated for my business, because I just did this as practice for doing it for other people, and people are starting to like it, and it's fantastic. I didn't spend any money on it, and you could spend some money on it, like a podcast setup service that my company offers. So again, I'm advertising and I'm generating this piece of content, but I'm getting exposure to people who, you don't know how people consume information. You don't know how people prefer to consume information. And you might think like, all the stats are saying, 60% of all content or 80% of all content generated or seen online is going to be video by 2022. It's like, no, some people like to listen, or they like to read, or, whatever. Everybody consumes content differently. So if you're leaving out the people who just want to listen, maybe that's the only time they really, consume content is driving to their job, then you don't want to leave them out. And so if you don't have a way to reach them, then you're just going to miss out on them. And then again, advertising, for this clip, I'm not going to put an ad on it because I'm lazy, but I could easily hire a narrator and have them record, like, if you need your podcast, sign up today and get $20 off. Use coupon code I listen to Mark's podcast and blah, blah, blah. And so I could, put an ad at the end of this. Didn't cost me anything. Yeah, maybe for the narrator, like $20. And I'm good to go. So easy exposure, easy cheap advertising. So there you have it. Those are my 5 reasons why you should start a podcast. And this is coming from a guy who did not believe in podcasts, but has been converted just because people are asking me to do it for them. And it was practice for me, but I found that it's a really cool method to generate lots of content. And I'm all about lots of content. So this is probably one of the best ways you could do it and the cheapest ways. So I definitely encourage you to do it. And again, I've mentioned a few times during this episode, but we do that for people. So we'll actually generate, we'll create your channel or create your podcast channel. We'll do the artwork. We'll actually teach you how to record your own podcast and then send it to us. And we'll go ahead and format it, edit it, and then upload it to your new channel. And then provide you with tutorials to show you how to keep doing it if you want to. And otherwise, you can just keep on sending us audio content and we'll generate the episodes and post them for you. But go and check that out. I have my MegaMad Media shop at megamadwebsites.com. And you'll see a whole podcast section where we have different services related to podcasts. But again, I'm all about, the small business owner, the entrepreneur, being able to take on these tasks themselves. So if you want to learn, or you just want a, affordable way to start your channel if you are afraid of the technical aspects, then we're here for you. Let us know. We'll do a good job, and you'll be rocking and rolling in no time. So if you have any questions, you go ahead and contact me at my website, megamadwebsites.com, or my personal website, markgrasse.com.